Explaining entertainment, keeping you ahead of the culture curve. That's what we do each and every day here at the WDW Pro channel. If you like that kind of content, think about clicking the like button, share, subscribe, and that notification bell. Well, if you click it, you stick it to the algorithms. So joining us today for this very spicy topic is Mr. John Trent, the founder and chief editor over at Bounding Into Comics. And the spice is coming from, in fact, Bounding Into Comics, one of the greatest, nay, I say the greatest pop culture website out there. Everybody should go to that website and make sure that you add it to your favorites on whatever is your browser of choice. John, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for that high praise. Appreciate that. We do try and live up to that. We'll try and live up to that. But I'm doing well.
Well, Bounding Into Comics is definitely a mover and a shaker wherever you go on YouTube when it comes to watching commentators on the subject. They are all citing your website. It's fantastic stuff. Now, I want to do the same. And with you in tow for this, you did not write this article. This is from Josh Berger, I assume. Is that the correct pronunciation?
Yes, that's how you say it.
With the first E, I'm sure was changed at some point from a U just to make sure that there was no confusion. But Disney
maybe.
Plus...
He's probably got some German ancestry. I don't know.
Could be. Disney Plus Hong Kong removes episode of The Simpsons over references to, something we won't say on YouTube, but you can all see, in China. Places people don't want to go, but they go anyway, and they do work that they'd rather not be doing, often with horrendous conditions. And let me say, too, as we go into this is very important. It's a vital part of our society. We're not talking about something that is necessarily a laughing matter, even though it was presented in a laughing way in The Simpsons. You don't have to be someone who enjoys The Simpsons or watches The Simpsons to be an individual who knows that we need to have satire, and satire needs to be had all over the world. And when we begin to erase jokes because they offend people who are of authoritarian nature, well, we've got a real problem on our hands. So let's dive into this. We'll read it, and then we'll do some commentary. Thanks to a joke referencing you-know-what in China, Disney has pulled a recent episode of The Simpsons from the Hong Kong edition of their signature streaming service. Originally aired in October of 2022, the second episode of the show's 34th season, One Angry Lisa sees Homer purchasing a stationary bike for Marge. Seeking to get the most out of her new exercise equipment, Marge soon takes up a virtual fitness class with a professional trainer named Jesse, and over as the episode goes on, the two grow ever more close before eventually agreeing to go on a private virtual trip together across the Great Wall of China. The joke, which caused the episode's removal, occurs on that very bike ride, when during their trip across the world-famous landmark, Jesse remarks to Marge, "Behold, the wonders of China, Bitcoin mines, you-know-what, where children make smartphones and romance." Despite Marge and Jesse's bike ride being the only mention of China in the episode, and even then none of the characters actually physically traveled to the Asian country, this dig led to the House of Mouse deeming it necessary to pull the episode from their Hong Kong edition of Disney Plus. Now, John, that's already kind of weird. People may have forgotten about the whole free Hong Kong thing. They may have forgotten about entertainment companies groveling at the feet of China over that.
Blizzard.
But absolutely. What do you think is the danger in our entertainment companies falling prostrate before China, even when it comes to places that were once democratic, such as Hong Kong?
Yeah, well, I think it's clearly showing that they aren't actually valuing American principles and values that made this country, and instead they're catering to a country that does not have those values. And they're pushing those values. I mean, obviously, in this case, they're not really pushing them on us because they're just doing it in Hong Kong and not on the other Disney Plus services. But I think when you start catering to these other countries that don't have these values, those values might start infecting your company. And I think in the case of Disney, that's clearly obvious on just seemingly how they operate, and that's affected their culture. And then they're now pushing a lot of those values on us as in American society. And I like to bring this up, not because I think he actually believes in this stuff, but Jon Favreau recently did an interview where he's confirmed that when you're creating content, you're passing on, or when you're creating TV shows, movies, you're passing on the values that you want to teach the younger generation. And so when you're passing on those values of like a communist China, and you're passing them on to Americans, that is a large problem, especially when that country has like absolutely heinous policies from the One China policy, which they've actually are correcting that though. But all the locking people in their homes during the disease and stuff, and then not like literally like welding their doors shut. So they don't actually have any kind of respect for life over there.
You know, yesterday morning, I had a video where I interviewed someone who worked at Shanghai Disney Resort for a number of years. This was someone from North America who had gone over. His name is Chris. He had went over and worked in the entertainment side of things, basically. And with people who have worked for Disney parks, they're very careful if they played a character. But essentially, Chris was Captain America and some other characters. And what I found remarkable is that, you know, when you go and you work in China for Disney, they will bend over backwards to appease and to be friendly with all kinds of Chinese customs and beliefs that are no good. For example, this is one that I just found remarkable, and he and I talked about this after the video. But characters who are who are African American, who are depicted as black within Disney shows, there are very few of them who are represented at Shanghai Disney, and so only three: Facilier, right, Black Panther, and then Tiana. And none of those characters are meet and greet characters. And that's for a reason, you know, and it just goes to show you that these, you know, they'll bring people into Shanghai Disney, they'll bring them into China, but they don't want them to interact with guests. They keep them very hands off. It's almost like it's a PR thing. And we were talking about how these people who take those kinds of positions, who they're very few, but when they take that kind of position, most of their day is spent doing nothing because they're there sort of as a statistic. And it shows you how Disney manipulates the public perception, but their values and their virtues are extremely malleable.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I think just if you've followed Disney over the past like just 2 decades, you can see how they've totally changed how they how they're creating their content, where their focus is. I think a lot of people's eyes were open when they decided to fight a bill in Florida banning certain types of education to children, and then we had the whole like Reimagine Tomorrow stuff leak out and showed just how bought into some of the heinous ideologies that are being pushed here in the United States are, and they're pushing that in their content. They said they're going to push that in their content because they say they want to change hearts and minds, and they want people to like buy into a lot of that stuff, and it's extremely dangerous. I think it's evil, and it's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about a lot of the stuff with Disney, because I really do think they're pushing an evil message, and I think we need to counter that.
Well, and here's the side of that. So I'm fully with you that there are things that Disney that they participate in that I would also classify as evil. And so you might say, well, my gosh, you know, what a thing to say. But then too, I would consider any attempt to sneak in propaganda into children's programming without parents knowing. I think that's evil. And, you know, it doesn't matter the agenda you sneak in. You are attempting to bypass the parental supervision of a child. We would never allow that, except that you have a streaming service that gets through the front door and onto their TV screens and onto their tablet screens. So I'm with you on that. But besides that, it's nowhere near rising to this. But the other fear I have is that if Disney caters to China in such a way that they will remove and they will censor the jokes that are made in order to appease the Chinese Communist Party, then does it not stand that writers will begin to adapt to that, and that they will begin to be very, very soft in any criticism, if it even exists at all, of authoritarian regimes?
I think we already kind of see that. I mean, we had John Cena do the whole apology. It wasn't even for Disney. I think it was for Fast 9 or whatever. Just 2 years ago. And the whole, but we do see writers kind of, I feel like already kind of adapting to that kind of style where I don't have a specific example that I can like really recall right now, but I'm sure if I went back on our site, I'd find some examples where they already are kind of doing a lot of that stuff. There's a guy who actually, I forget what his name is, but he claims to be one of the pioneers of like really getting Hollywood over into China and and opening up that Chinese market to Hollywood. And now he is one of the guys sounding like the warning bells about how this is extremely dangerous. We probably shouldn't have done this.
Yeah, the theory didn't work, did it? The theory of going into China and having sort of the idea of like in the late 80s, early 90s, where you were going to go in and with your influence, you would break down the Soviet Union because they would see, oh, how much better the world is. That was attempted with China. That was the whole idea behind this, other than, oh, let's chase a ton of money, right? A burgeoning middle class in China that outsizes the entire population of the United States. That was definitely a part of their calculus. But, the other thing, the facade was, well, we will, through our entertainment, we will permeate China. We will put our own values into China and begin to moderate that country. It seems to me China has done the exact opposite. They have managed to completely run circles around our entertainment leaders and our political leaders.
Yeah, I definitely think that they were very well aware of the game that was going to be played on them, and they have actually played the game back. And I think they've done an excellent job on doing that. As far as just from I don't agree obviously with how they're doing it, but I think they have played that game well, if that makes sense. But yeah, they basically have taken all the technology. And it's not just from like the movie productions and stuff like that. It's from the theme parks as well. And they've created their own theme parks. They've created their own movies. If you look at the top box office grossing films, like a number of them are now Chinese productions that I don't even think air here in the United States. It's just in China for the most part. Yeah, they've basically been able to do a number on these studios because they feel like they need to get into the Chinese box office to get those revenues. I don't think that's the case. I think Top Gun Maverick proves that. I think Joker proves that. There's a number of examples that show that theory doesn't really float water. I guess if you want to be super greedy, you want to get in there to just get as much profit as you possibly can. But I think you can make successful films without having to rely on the Chinese box office. A number of examples.
Well, I think China was exceedingly clever in that they've allowed these companies to come in, and these companies foolishly put themselves into a really negative situation. If you think about Disney went in and they spent many billions of dollars in investments for Shanghai Disney Resort. They also have Hong Kong Disneyland, which now is de facto part of the Chinese communist system because it was once democratic, now it's not. But Disney has these huge capital investments, which can be taken at any time for any reason that the Chinese Communist Party so deems. And so Disney is in a really tough spot. They have to kowtow to whatever the CCP might want.
I guess you can make that argument, or they can just cut their losses and move on. I know that's like a hard pill to swallow, but that there is that possibility.
That's what I would recommend.
Yeah, I would too. But
I don't think this gets better.
I understand the conflict there where they don't want to like just kind of abandon all their investment, but that's the calculus that you made. That's the risk that you made going in. If you weren't making that risk, hopefully the person who made that risk is no longer leading your company.
Oh no, it's Bob Iger. It's Bob Iger, and he's back in charge, baby.
I was being facetious there.
I know. But the audience, just so the audience knows, it's the guy that we got rid of and came back again. He's like a boomerang. He's a boomerang of Chinese exports.
Yeah, so I think there's just, I guess, to go back to like the original question with the danger of them being captured, and I think we see it already. I mean, I can't even imagine Disney ever pushing any of the stuff that they're pushing now just 20 years ago, and I think that is part of like the Chinese influence. I don't want to say that China is like kind of dictating a lot of this stuff to them because they seem to oppose it, but I wouldn't be surprised that they're trying to get them to push it on us and keep it out of there. That's why they put a lot of these restrictions on what they can and can't be seen over there. Like they don't want to have their country shown as weak, even if it's a minor joke like this one in The Simpsons. They want to portray strong country, strong character to their people, and I do think that is there's something to that.
Yeah, and so it's funny to me because at the very same time that Disney is doing everything they can to build up the vision of China, right? To build up the facade that they have, they're at the same time undermining things about America that seem to me to be foundational, and they're not just doing that with adults. They're attacking the foundations of America to children. And so you have another fantastic article, this one by Jacob Smith, called "Disney's Proud Family, Louder and Prouder, Advances Racial Division to Children After Previously Pushing a Not-So-Secret Agenda." And it goes on to talk about that extremely controversial show And I got to say, the last episode in that second season is unlike anything I've ever watched before in terms of children's programming. But this article goes over that and just how bad it is. You can see there an image of children chanting about the history of oppression in the United States and how the country is allegedly built upon that and nothing else. And you have the dark forces of law enforcement facing down those children. That's being beamed in to the eyes and the minds of small children everywhere, and likely not with the knowledge of parents, because many parents are busy and they assume that Disney is good because there was a time when indeed Disney was that. So, John, what do you think about this juxtaposition?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is kind of what I was talking about. I think Disney's literally sowing division, fear, hate through their programming. This is what they said they were, on top of all the other things that they're trying to do. They're doing they're doing like trying to make a historical show, like talk about history here without actually like providing any true history, any counterpoints, or
no subtlety or context needed, John.
These people are bad, and just shove it down your throat, even though that might not actually be the case. So, as far as the juxtaposition, it shows Disney's true character. It shows their leadership. It shows what they actually believe in. They believe in they believe in kowtowing to China in order to protect them, and they want to do as much damage as they possibly can, I think, to Americans here in the United States. I think that's just, I mean, it's really that simple. I don't think that, like, I mean, I guess you could probably go into a little bit more depth on like just how nefarious it is, which I think Jacob does a good job here in the article. But on the basic level, I think that's really what it is. It shows how truly wrong and misguided Disney has become over the past, I guess, 2 decades.
We know the hypocrisy, I guess, is so palpable. It's impressive that they, and I know that people want money, and the people at the top, they'll do whatever it takes to get money. But at the same time, you look at this image that they've got that's essentially presenting America in a very, very negative light. And then you think, but wait a minute, they would not show this in China because the individuals have a skin color that would not be acceptable. It's the same reason that the characters that are represented in Shanghai Disney Park that have that skin color are sort of kept to the side, right? They're only allowed in shows from a distance from the guests, and they do basically nothing compared to their white counterparts. It's amazing the hypocrisy.
Well, yeah, aside from even the race stuff, they wouldn't even like show protesters going against the government. Like, so there's that too.
Oh, Disney, the pixie dust only goes to certain places, apparently. But John, thanks for being on today. I'm sure we'll continue on both sides, your side and mine, to cover the sins and the hypocrisies and the toxicity that is Disney. And we do this because we hope they'll turn it around. We need Disney to be a force for good. We need Disney to uplift our youth. We need Disney to bring people together, not sow division. It's just vital. You think about little kids are often singing the Disney songs before they know the spiritual hymns of their own religions, if they have one. Disney's important.
I'm not fully on board with everything you say. I don't think, like, I mean, if Disney dies, I'm not going to cry a river about it. I don't think that they're that. I know you obviously have a different opinion than that. I don't think that they're that much of a necessity. I think the fact that you're saying that that people are knowing Disney songs before they know their religious hymns, I think shows where there's a problem there too. I think maybe you need to know your religious hymns before you know your Disney songs. But
well, I agree
that's not to say I don't think that's not to say I don't think that Disney can't be a vehicle for good. And if there's a possibility for it to convert or revert back to how it used to be, I would, aside from it dying, then yeah, I would want that to happen. At this point though, it's hard for me to see a path back unless you really have someone come in with leadership and do a really change things. But it doesn't look like there's anyone there right now with the will to do that.
Well, I think we actually totally agree. I'm just operating under the assumption that Disney will not go under at any point. And so therefore, if it's not going under, then we have to fight the good fight to hold them to doing better.
Yes.
And we we can't assume that all of a sudden there's going to be a cultural revolution where parents in mass begin watching the viewing habits of their children, because we've seen that's not happening. And so we need to bring this forthrightly to the minds of parents. We need to let them know this is happening.
Yeah, and Disney says that they want to change hearts and minds to change society, and they're doing it through their programming. So if you don't think this is important, like, Disney literally is saying that it is.
I think for all the people at Disney, they need to get back to what would Walt do? How would Walt behave? And I can guarantee you they are not in alignment at all with him. So, John, thank you for being here today. Fantastic topic. We'll keep this up. Not just Disney, but all of pop culture, because pop culture has such a tremendous impact on all the people around us. Entertainment matters because we matter, and entertainment, ideally, is that which leads us forward into something better. It's our fantasies, it's our visions, it is our aim. Ladies and gentlemen, whatever you're doing, wherever you are, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.